friends, how's it going? I'm so excited for our class tonight. As you probably guessed by your fun make and take kits, we are actually playing with watercolor, one of my favorites. Tonight we're going to need a glass of water. You're going to need everything in your kit, obviously, and you can also grab your blow dryer if you want to blow dry in between, blow dry your paper in between steps. That way you can just kind of work a little bit faster. If not, that's absolutely okay too. So go ahead and press pause and get your your space all set up. And then when you're ready to continue, hit that play button. My area is already all set up, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Tonight we are making the cutest little bookmarks. Got this one, and we've got this one with some glitter on it. And then we are making peacock magnets. Here's another one. So we're going to be working with the technique called, there's several techniques with watercolor, okay? The technique that we're going to be working with tonight is wet on dry. So what that means is we're going to get our paints wet, okay? So you have your palette here. What the wet on dry is whatever color you want to use. You get your paintbrush wet, and then you get your colors wet too, okay? So just so you guys know, that's kind of what we're doing. I am going to draw mine out in Sharpie so you can see what I'm doing. If you want to draw yours out in Sharpie before you paint, you absolutely can. It's up to you, okay? So we're gonna get right into it. We're actually going to make I'm going to make a sunflower on mine, and I'm going to just make half of the flower on my bookmark, okay? So for these bookmarks, we're gonna paint them tonight, and then on Thursday, or whenever you pick up your next kit, leave that at my house with your name on it, and I will get it laminated for you, and then returned that next week with your next kit, okay? So I'm going to start with a half oval here right in the middle. I would say I left about 2, maybe 3 fingers space on each side, on the top and on the bottom. And then I am going to start right here at this corner, and I'm going to make that petal kind of go off of the bookmark. There's one petal, and then I'm going to make another one right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing up here on that where that oval curves. I'm going to make another big one and then another small one. That way, I know we've talked about symmetry before, but that way it's kind of symmetric all the way around. And then I'm gonna just fill it in. And I'm just doing these, it's almost like a quotation marks for my petals. Okay, if you want to do something else for yours, you absolutely can, but this is what I'm going to do with mine. I'm going to make a little sunflower. So go ahead and if I'm working faster than you, just like always, you can go ahead and press that pause button, okay? I am ready, obviously, to continue, start on my painting. So I am going to get my water, and again, trying to reach for my paints here. And again, what we're going to do is we're actually going to get our brush wet, okay? And then we're going to dip it in to your color. And I'm gonna use a little bit of yellow, and I'm gonna mix a little bit of orange to kind of make a darker yellow. My brush isn't wet enough, so make sure that your paints are really wet. And I am just going to paint my flower petals. Now with watercolor, it's a lot of fun to experiment, obviously, but also it's really fun to layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a first coat, and then we're going to kind of come in and add some dimension with some other colors. Now once it kind of gets, once you can't really see it very well on the paper, get your paintbrush wet again, and then just dip it in that paint. Obviously yours is going to be laying flat. So as you can tell, mine's kind of running. That's pretty typical with watercolor. So you want to make sure that you're kind of working on a flat surface. Obviously I can't do that with mine, which is fine. All right, so I'm going to paint all of my petals yellow. Again, see how that kind of, the color kind of runs out? I'm just going to get my paintbrush wet again and dip it into that yellow again. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint around my petals. And I'm going to paint around my petals the kind of teal color. I'm going to do teal, and I think I'm going to do dark blue. So I got my my paintbrush really wet. And then I dip my paintbrush in my water, and then I just grab this and I just kind of spiral it around. See how there's kind of some paint pooling up? That's what you want. So I'm going to paint around my petals. And I'm going to do the insides closest to the petals, that light teal. And then on the outside, I'm going to do an ombre into the dark blue. Now I'm going to paint this black, right? Because the sunflower kind of has that wide center. So that's what I'm going to do with mine. If you want to paint right inside here, the blue, you can absolutely do that too. All right, so I'm going to go into that darker blue. Again, I got my paintbrush wet, and I'm just really making that paint palette wet. And then I'm just going to kind of feather that dark blue into that teal. Whoops. Mine's running together because I'm holding it up so you guys can see it. So that's okay though. But I'm just kind of feathering. I'm doing a little stippling motion here. I'm just kind of feathering that dark blue so it kind of fades. The teal fades into that dark blue. So I'll hold it up close so you guys can see kind of what I'm talking about. So see how that teal with watercolor, it's super easy to blend, which is another reason why I absolutely love it. So I'm going to do a blank piece of paper here and show you guys kind of up close how to blend. So I'm going to dip my paintbrush into the light teal. Obviously my paintbrush is wet. I'm going to, I'll just go like this. I'll just make a little square. So see how that's kind of still wet? What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that, dip it into the dark blue, and I'm going to overlap it just a bit and kind of pull that teal down into it. Okay, then I'm gonna, if I need to mix it, blend it a little bit more, I'll dip my paintbrush back into the lighter color and then just kind of blend those two colors together. So watercolor is super easy to blend. I'm not sure if you guys can tell, but it just kind of gradually gets from light to dark, okay? And you do that just kind of by overlapping and mixing your colors. All right, so next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint the center of my flower black. So again, I'm getting my paintbrush wet, and I am going to fill in the center of my flower. The first coat, I'm gonna do black. I'm gonna kind of bring this all the way out because again, those sunflower centers kind of go all the way out. Now you can kind of see my Sharpie line, and that's okay because we're actually going to come back in here and do another coat. So it'll probably cover it up anyways. And even if you can kind of see it a little bit, that's okay. All right, so there's the center. I wash my brush out really good. And by now, my yellow is pretty much dry. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dip my brush into the water, and then I'm going to dip into the orange color. And I'm going to add some orange accents here. So I'm just gonna kind of outline it on a couple of the petals. My black is running in. That's okay, yours won't because yours is probably flat. All right, and then I'm just going to add some flower-like detail to my petals. Okay, so I'm just, again, I'm outlining with the orange, and then I'm just kind of adding some details to the petals in an orange. So again, on the outsides, and then I'm just kind of bringing those petal details, strokes in. So it looks like that. Now you can leave it like that, or you can grab the yellow again and paint right over those. And it will just kind of blend them in just a little bit more. You'll still be able to see the orange, but it'll just kind of blend it all together a little bit. See how that just kind of blends it all together? So again, you can just grab if you want to leave the orange, you absolutely can. Or you can come in and grab the yellow and just kind of blend those colors together a little bit. It's completely up to you. All flowers look different in nature, so all flowers on our bookmark should look different too, right? All right, so I kind of blended all of mine. Kind of like the way that you can still kind of see some of the orange strokes, but it's mostly blended in. I'm trying to get it so you can see it. So you can see how there's still a little bit of orange in there, but it's mostly blended together. I think I actually am going to add a little bit of blue to the top part, right up here in between those petals, just because I don't want to bring my black all the way back. So I'm just going to kind of paint in between those a little bit with the light teal. Just right up top, just a little bit. And then kind of in between each petal too. So that way, kind of covers up some of that white. All right. So if you do have an issue with your watercolor running, what you can do is, like right here, mine's kind of running. So you can just take your finger and just kind of press on it, and it will grab on your finger whatever color was running. If you have running like me, it's no big deal. Just kind of dab your finger on it, and it will pick up that color that kind of ran. I'm gonna add just a little bit more of that darker blue. Again, getting my paintbrush wet in between colors. I really want those colors to kind of blend together nicely. All right. So next, what we're going to do, your center should be pretty much dry, so we're going to rinse our colors out, get our paintbrush wet. I'm going to come back in here, and I am going to add my teals running into my black, and that's okay. If you want to blow dry your sections in between, you absolutely can. That's why I said you might need your blow dryer, okay? All right, so I'm just going to do a stippling motion. And what I mean by that is I'm literally just pressing down my paintbrush and lifting it up. So that way it kind of gives the illusion of sunflower seeds. Gives it a little bit of texture. Again, if it runs, I'm just going to tap my finger on it and lift that paint up. So I'm literally just grabbing my paintbrush and kind of lightly tapping it. This is called stippling. So see how that kind of makes it look like the sunflower seeds in the center there? I love texture with watercolor. It's one of my favorite things to do, just because it's so easy to create different layers with watercolor because it dries so fast and it's pretty transparent. So I'm just coming in here and I'm just kind of making those little seeds. Okay, now I'm gonna play in the brown color. And I'm gonna do the same thing in the center there with the brown. I'm just gonna add just a little bit of texture. And I'm getting my paintbrush wet, getting that paint pad, that color really wet. Make sure that your paintbrush has plenty of paint on it. You can't really tell because it's brown. And then I'm just going in and I'm stippling those seeds into the center. Mine's running again because my bookmark is in an upwards position, and that is absolutely okay. So you want it to have a little bit of texture. I'm gonna grab a little bit of this brown and do the same thing that I did with that orange. Just a tiny little bit of some little petal lines, just to add again more dimension, more layering. And then I'm gonna blend those together again with the yellow. So I washed my brush out of the brown. I'm going to dip back into that yellow color. I'm really just going to kind of blend those colors out. And if you want to use a stippling motion to kind of blend those together, you can absolutely do that too. So you just kind of want to create some texture. And like I said, with watercolors, it's so easy to do because they're pretty transparent. So the layers dry easily, and then they're super easy to blend, which is a lot of fun. I love watercolors. Okay, so there's my sunflower. I'm gonna let that dry. And then I'm going to move on to the peacock. So go ahead and finish up your bookmark. Okay, here's mine so far. I haven't added glitter or anything to it yet. I'm gonna let it dry. So go ahead and get your bookmark done. If I worked a little bit faster than you, again, that's absolutely okay. Just hit that pause button, and then when you're ready to continue on to your peacock, go ahead and hit play, okay? All right, so again, I'm gonna draw mine in permanent marker, mainly so you guys can see. If you want to draw your guides with the pencil, you can absolutely do that too, okay? All right, so for the peacock, I'm going to come and I'm going to draw, just like on our petals, I'm going to draw a big quotation mark there in the center. See that? And then on this bottom one, I'm going to bring this up. And I'm kind of going to make an S with it. Okay. And then on this is his neck. So I'm going to bring this up, and then I'm going to give him a little bit of a head and come down to a point for his beak. And we're going to draw, again, for his wings, we're going to draw smaller quotations in the center there. Okay, now, so the peacocks kind of have the large, colorful feathers in the background. So just like on our flower, we're going to make those petal shapes. And I'm just kind of adding them around his body. And then I'm going to fill in the rest of the background. That way it kind of looks like he's got, his feathers are taking up the whole background. So this peacock body and then the peacock feathers are going to be the whole magnet. Okay, so I just kind of added some of the feather shapes into the background. Again, and it's going to, your little guy should kind of be, it should look like he's kind of sitting on your piece of paper a little bit sideways. So the rest of his body is going to be down here off the paper that you don't see, okay? All right, I'm gonna paint mine blue. So I'm gonna come in with, let's do actually that teal color for his body. So I'm gonna paint the whole body this teal color. Such a pretty color. I hope that you guys enjoy these watercolors. They're yours to keep. So I think we need them for another project. So make sure you don't use them all of your colors just yet, but all of those palettes that were sent home are yours to keep, which is a lot of fun. So after the 6-week course, you guys can continue to experiment and improve, perfect your watercolor technique. All right, so because when your strokes dry, just like with acrylic paint, friends, you're going to be able to see those streak marks. So I'm being very intentional with my brush strokes, okay? Because his head is kind of, I want it to look round. I'm kind of painting in a round direction. I'm gonna leave the little tip of his beak yellow so I can paint it yellow. But I am just kind of making those intentional brush strokes. That way when it dries, you can kind of see that there's some rounded texture in his body. Okay, so then I'm going to grab, again, I'm going to rinse my brush off and I'm going to dip it in the water, and then I'm going to grab some of that dark blue and I'm going to paint his wing the dark blue. And again, I'm being very intentional with my brush strokes. See how I kind of outline that and I'm following along of my guide. I'm going to do the same thing all the way down. So that way when it dries, you can see the brush strokes, okay? So go ahead, I'm gonna hit pause and let you guys get caught up. And then once you're caught up, hit that play button and we'll continue. Okay, so your bird and your wing should be painted. And now we're going to move on to the back part. I am going to paint, I'm gonna get my paintbrush wet, and then I'm going to paint all of these little florets, the little petal shapes. I'm going to do closest to the bottom blue, the dark blue. See how I kind of feathered that out? So I'm going to do that on all of these. I'm just going to kind of paint the bottom of that dark blue, and then we're going to come in and we're going to add the light teal, and we're going to add some yellow too. So again, I am just painting the bottom of this, of all of these little shapes, that dark blue. Bye. And then I am going to kind of mix in the teal once I have all of them painted the blue. So again, when your paintbrush, if your paintbrush kind of dries out, guys, all you have to do is just dip it back into the water and back into your color pan again to get more color on your brush. So I'm not being super precise on any of this. It's really peacocks, the little feathers of the peacock. None of them look the same. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just kind of adding color, placing color on the paper. So I've got all of them painted that dark blue. And then I'm going to paint the top of those shapes, that light teal, and I'm going to do, you know, let's do the dark green actually instead. I'm going to do dark green on mine. If you want to do the teal on yours, you absolutely can. But I'm going to do the dark green, and I'm going to paint that top part the dark green, and then I'm going to leave the center open so I can add that little yellow detail that the peacocks are so famous for. So again, I am just bringing that green color to the top and just kind of bringing that just a little bit down to the blue. And then I'm just gonna leave a little spot in the middle there to add that yellow, a little pop of yellow. So once all of those are done, then I'm gonna wash my brush. I'm going to dip it, then get the yellow wet and paint that center yellow. So again, I'm not being very super precise on these. I'm just kind of placing the color. And if some of you want some of them to be darker and some of them to be lighter, again, all you have to do is kind of layer those colors. So see how this one right here is darker than this one. If I want this one to be darker, all I have to do is just kind of bring that green color over that lighter color, and it will really layer nicely. Okay. So I'm actually gonna let that dry before I do my yellow, because I want that yellow to really stand out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint my background, and I'm gonna do my background purple, but you guys can really do it any color that you want. So I'm just gonna paint around all of those little shapes. And again, I'm going to be mindful of my brush strokes, right? Because you will be able to see your strokes when they dry. So I'm just being mindful of where I'm placing my brush on the paper. I'm just kind of filling in around those feathers. Kind of working my brush in the direction of the petals, or in this case, the feathers. And again, that purple is about to run down into that teal. So I'm just gonna take my finger and dab that off so it stops the run. I am just going to finish filling in the background, being meaningful of the brush placement on my paper. And again, if your paintbrush runs out of color, then just dip it back into the water and then back into your paint pan. And it will kind of redo, it will get your brush filled with paint again. And I really want this background to kind of have some different color variants. So in some parts it's going to be a little bit lighter, and some parts it's going to be a little bit darker. If you want a more consistent color on your background, you can absolutely do that as well. Again, I love the texture of watercolor, so I'm going to make sure that there's some kind of variance in my background, but however you want to do it is absolutely okay. Watercolor is a lot different than working with acrylics. It's a lot different than working with colored pencils and crayons and markers. It really just takes some time practicing and playing around and really seeing what you can do with colors, what you can do with different water amounts on your brush, different amount of paint, right? So just play around with it, guys, and really just kind of figure out your watercolor style, because I feel like everybody kind of has a different style when it comes to watercolor. And maybe that's why it's one of my favorite mediums to work with, because it just always looks different, which is fun. All right, so my background's pretty much filled in. I'm gonna let that dry. And then, sorry, my dogs are going crazy upstairs. And then I'm going to dip back into that purple, and I'm going to add just some purple lines in the background. That way it kind of gives that illusion of the feathers in the back on the peacock. So again, I'm just kind of making random dark purple. And I'm, again, being mindful, right, of where my brush is being placed on the paper. I kind of am changing the direction of the stripes in the background, kind of based on the bird. So see how these are kind of curved that way, and these are kind of curved that way? Because when you picture the back of a peacock, it kind of goes all the way around. So if I were to put straight lines all the way through, it wouldn't look round, if that makes sense. So there's my bird. I'm gonna paint his little beak yellow. And then I'm going to paint the little spots yellow. And then we are going to add some Sharpie detail, some glitter, and we are done. So again, friends, with your bookmarks, make sure that you put your name on the back of them. And when you pick up your kit this week, leave your bookmarks here with me so I can get them laminated. And then the next time you pick up a kit, they'll be ready for you. So if you want to leave your bookmarks in my mailbox with your name on them, that would be perfect. Okay? So here's my bird. If you guys need to press pause, go ahead. I'm going to let that dry. So finish up your peacock, okay? And I'm going to move on to finishing up our bookmark. So once you're done, go ahead. If you need some more time, press pause. And then when you're ready to continue, hit play. I do need to grab a glue stick. So I'm going to hit pause really quick and I'll be right back. Okay, now I know how much your parents probably love glitter being spread all over their house. So I want you guys to remember one of our biggest rules is to be respectful of your space and of yourself, right? And of your parents. So make sure that you're not spraying glitter. Maybe do this over the trash can, okay? Maybe do it outside. But what we're going to do is I'm going to grab my glue stick. And just like I made those kind of flower details with the darker colors, I'm kind of going to do the same thing with the glue stick. So I'm just going to kind of make some streaks in here with the glue stick, and I grabbed a purple one, so hopefully you guys could kind of see what I'm talking about. So again, I'm just adding some glue. I don't want my whole petal to have glue all over it, because then it's going to cover up what we did with the layering with our watercolor. So see where it's purple, that's where it has glue, okay? And I do my glitter in a little tray. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay this down. You can put this on maybe a piece of paper and sprinkle your glitter. But I'm going to lay mine in my tray. Maybe if you have like a paper plate, you could sprinkle a little bit of glitter in there. And then lay this down, and it should look something. Make sure that you're pressing. See how I'm kind of just massaging my fingers on the back to make sure that wherever I put down glue, the glitter is gonna stick. So here is my bookmark. How fun is that? So again, leave your bookmarks with me when you pick up your kit Thursday or whenever you snag your kit this week. Put it in my mailbox, please, and make sure that your name is on the back, okay? So I'm gonna put this aside. We're gonna do some Sharpie detail on our little peacocks. Okay. So I'm going to trace again all of my little feathers. I'm going to retrace around my bird so that way it just really pops around his beak. I'm going to add a little eye. So for my eye, I want my peacock to kind of look a little girly. So I'm going to do kind of a big, kind of almost like an S, a small S. And then I'm going to do a U under that. And then kind of fill some of that in and then leave just a little dot. Okay. I'm going to add some little feather, their little headpiece. So I'm just doing curved lines with a little dot on the top. And again, I'm curving them backwards because he's looking that way, right? So I'm gonna kind of go over these lines just a little bit. And I'm gonna trace each and every single where there's a color change on all of my feathers. So where it goes from blue to yellow, to green. This one's kind of hard to tell because those colors kind of blended together, but I'm just kind of outlining all of those colors. That way they each really stand out. And I'm really not being very precise with this at all because these are kind of abstract looking peacocks anyways, which is fun. So I'm tracing on the outside, and then I'm tracing around the yellow, and then I'm just kind of separating out the blue and the green. That way each color really stands out. And again, I am not being very precise with this. I kind of want it to look kind of a little bit randomly placed because a lot of peacock, the details in their wings are pretty random. So here is my little peacock. And if you want to add glitter to your peacock, you absolutely can. You do it the same way. So we can add some on this guy. I'm not going to do it on all of my little spots, but I'll do it on some. So I'm just going to add my glitter to the yellow. And I'm going to kind of do every other one. Maybe this one. And let's do this one. That one up there. If you want to do every one, you absolutely can. If you are a glitter lover, so see how where the purple is on the yellow? That's where I put the glue. And again, we're going to be very mindful, right, of our glitter so it doesn't get all over your house because glitter is really hard to get up. Once it's sprinkled everywhere, it's really hard to clean up. So very careful. So again, I have mine in my tray. So I'm just kind of rubbing this in the leftover glitter that I have. Make sure it sticks wherever there was purple, and then kind of rub off any extra. And here is my little peacock. What do you guys think? They turned out pretty cute, didn't they? All right, so the last step is these little pockets. So this is actually a magnet, okay? So we're going to take our peacock, and there's a clear pocket. We're going to put the picture obviously up. And then the back of your peacock will go towards the black. And if you need help with this, you absolutely can ask your parents, but just have your parents kind of slide this into your frame. Then we have our little peacock magnets. How fun! I can't wait to see your bookmarks when you drop them off. I can't wait to see all of your peacocks. Please be sure to share them in the comments, okay? And make sure to clean up your space. Take good care of your watercolor palettes because we will be using them again in the 6 weeks. Make sure you get your brushes washed out, your watercolor water dumped out, and all of the glitter picked up, okay? As always, friends, if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Happy creating. We'll see you next week. Bye.